Hey guys, Dark Skeleton here, and I'm back for another arena practice. We're going to be drafting a new deck. Choosing between these three classes, I'll go through every single card in the draft pick selection, and I will explain each of them to the best of my ability. Now, between these three classes, if you were to choose the one that would be optimal statistically, as per Arena Master, you can see right here, Mage, most wins, you would pick Mage. But, however, I have actually just done the Mage deck, so we're going to pick between these two. And you know which one I like to pick? I like to play the Warlock, both in Constructed and in Arena. Now, Warlock, you might also see over here on ArenaMastery.com, is one of the least played classes, used to be the least played. And it also has one of the lowest win rates. Okay, down here is where you can see it. 4.36 wins, Warrior at 4.14 wins. And that, of course, is for since GVG Arena. Now, we go back to that. If you're picking between Warlock and Warrior, technically and hilariously, that means that Warlock is statistically better. Normally you'd play Mage once again, but we're going to draft Warlock. It's my favorite class, more or less. Priest, arguably for Constructed, but for Arena, definitely Warlock. Oh man, that is one hell of a first pick. Okay, Mal'Ganis, Gazlowe, Dr. Boom. Alright. Gazlowe, I've seen it work in a few Constructed decks. The thing is, it has a very specific requirement. You must have 1 mana spells. That means you basically need to draft a mech deck that has a lot of spare parts in it. I can't guarantee that, and on top of that, the stats of Gazlowe are actually pretty weak. So it's between Dr. Boom and Mal'Ganis. Now, Mal'Ganis in a Warlock deck frequently is as good as Dr. Boom. The thing is, that's more for a Constructed, where you actually have all of these demons you can guarantee. If I had a bunch of Void Callers, I would maybe take Mal'Ganis. But I think Dr. Boom is the more consistent pick here. Dr. Boom, as you know in Constructed, is a bloody amazing pick. It has so much value. The thing about Mal'Ganis is you are paying 9 mana for a creature that can be killed pretty easily if it doesn't have anything to protect it. And you can't rely on drafting Voidwalkers or anything like that. Even with Mal'Ganis, you wouldn't draft a Voidwalker in the first place. So it's a tough pick. These are both legitimate. I will pick the Dr. Boom, though. That is the more consistent choice. Mal'Ganis, if you have enough Void Callers, can be better. So between these three, it's a very obvious choice. Succubus, the problem with Succubus is that it discards you a card, which is really bad. Plus, it only has 3 health, so it frequently dies to other 2-drops. Darkscale Healer is an alright pick. I do like to actually take Darkscale Healer in a lot of arena runs. Sometimes you can get some nice value out of that to heal to all friendly characters. But Chillwind Yeti is more consistent. It's generally considered the better card. We will pick Chillwind Yeti. These cards all suck. Reckless Rocketeer you should never take. It's a 6 mana charge, and that's assuming they don't even have a taunt. They're better finishers. You might as well just draft a Doom Guard. Stone Tusk Boar, it's a 1/1. You don't draft 1/1s generally. Abusive Sergeant, on the other hand, can actually buff one of your minions into being able to trade better with an enemy minion. So Abusive Sergeant is actually decent, especially compared to these two, so you definitely take Abusive Sergeant here. Okay, next pick, Soulfire, Amani Berserker, and Tinkertown. All three of these are pretty legitimate picks. Amani Berserker, probably the weakest of the three, just because you don't really have any way to proc that Enrage effect as a Warlock. You're not a mage that can just pay 2 mana to give it 3 attack. By that I mean the hero power, of course. Tinkertown Technician is a really solid pick if you have other mechs. We don't have any other mechs. Dr. Boom bots, but does that really count? And Soulfire. Soulfire, of course, not as good as it used to be. You're discarding a card to use it, so it's not... Before it would have been obvious that you pick Soulfire, but here it's not so obvious. I think, though, I will take the Soulfire. Usually as Warlock, I find I have enough cards in my hand, so losing one of the crappy ones isn't that big of a deal. I'd rather have the tempo, and I think you should as well, so take a Soulfire. If you had a ton of mechs, Tinkertown Technician would be a more legitimate pick. Between these, Zombie Chow is great, Mad Bomber is okay, but be prepared... blah blah blah. Mad Bomber will screw you over. I can't recommend it, even though it's good in theory. Stone Splitter Traug is slightly above average, not that great. Zombie Chow, on the other hand, tempo is really important, especially for a Warlock. I would go with the Zombie Chow. Oh, pretty much 100% of the time here. It's better than the other two picks. Demon Fire is actually okay if you have a bunch of demons to buff, but we don't. South Sea Deckhand is rubbish. Archmage is probably below average for a 6 mana arena card, actually. It does work with Soulfire. Do you take Demon Fire over a crappy Archmage? That's kind of a tough call. I don't really favor either of them, but South Sea Deckhand as a 2-1? Nah, no. I think you do go with the Archmage here, although Demon Fire is not out of the question. Archmage does work with Soulfire. You might be able to get some other spells. Like here, we will take a Demon Fire, because Wolf Rider is rubbish, Drain Life is even worse, and Demon Fire is, at worst, 2 damage removal for 2 mana, which is okay. It will kill a lot of 2-drops. Summoning Portal is cute, but I can't recommend it for arena mode. Corruption, same deal. Do you take a Bluegill over the Summoning Portal? I think you do. I really do. By a slight margin, though. Summoning Portal isn't so terrible that Bluegill Warrior looks like a god card, because it's really not. It's more like 2 damage removal for 2 mana. But you take what you get. Now, these also suck. Not getting the best picks, minus the Dr. Boom first pick. When Flying a Machine is only good if you have buffs for it. I mean, Abusive Sergeant Flying Machine, it's a decent combo, but that's only one card that combos with it. It's not like you can Demon Fire a Flying Machine. Shield Bearer, not really useful. You don't have any Dark Direwolf Alphas. You don't have many ways to buff it up so it can actually do something. Lord of the Arena is not great. It's at best an average card. If it had more HP, it would maybe be good, but a 6/5 taunt for 6 mana, it's meh, but it's something. At least it has stats. Okay, here we have some good picks. Azure Drake and Sludge Belcher, generally considered 2 of the top tier picks for almost any class in arena mode. Really in constructed as well, they're really that good. Gadget Sand Auctioneer, nowhere near as good as it used to be. You don't have the spells. Generally, you wouldn't even draft it in arena mode, unless you were some really crazy rogue. Sludge Belcher is very consistent. Azure Drake is also pretty consistent, but there's only one spell for Azure Drake. So, basically, it comes down to, would you rather have more stuff on the field or would you have card draw? And as a Warlock, I would say you do favor the stronger field, because you can always life tap for more. So we'll take a Sludge Belcher. Plus, it does directly protect your face. Some people will try to rush you down. Okay, Silverback Patriarch, it's rubbish because it only has 1 attack. The Shattered Sun Cleric, on the other hand, is pretty decent. It's a 3/2, give +1/+1. Ancient Brewmaster is also pretty decent. You could use that with something like Dr. Boom to replay it, actually, and that would be a good play. Replay a Sludge Belcher. Even replay an Archmage or a Lord of the Arena would not be that bad. On the other hand, if we go down and look at our mana curve, we don't have any 3-drops yet, and I think this is more consistently able to be used than the Ancient Brewmaster. Also, stat for stat-wise, if you get this off, it's generally better, so I will put a slight preference to the Shattered Sun Cleric. Though, I wouldn't totally blame you for taking Ancient Brewmaster, it's not that bad. Okay, here we can take a demon for Demon Fire, but it's a bad demon, so we don't want it. We could take a Youthful Brewmaster, which is going to be the choice here. We already have 1 Demon Fire, they're not that great. And Youthful Brewmaster, it's even less mana, and it really does have potential with things like Dr. Boom and Sludge Belcher. Even Chillwind Yeti, anything that has a lot of HP or battle cry effects. So, Youthful Brewmaster could be useful. Worst case scenario, it's still a 3/2, which is solid. Okay, here we have 3 Warlock spells. You might notice a trend that Warlock spells kind of suck, and that's generally why Warlock is not chosen in arena mode. You don't have Flame Strike. If they gave Flame Strike to Warlock, Warlock would be great, but no. So, between these 3, sometimes I would take 1 Sacrificial Pact if I was actually playing Constructed and trying to be cheeky. You know, like sacrifice 1 of your Imps or 1 of your Void Colors, but we don't have anything like that going on, so we're going to take a Soulfire. Even at 1 mana cost, it's still pretty decent. It's good for tempo. Okay, we can get our first demon, a crappy Mech Taunt. I mean, that's good and constructed. I don't know about Arena Mode. Or a pretty decent 4-drop as well. So it's going to be between the Trog or the Dread Infernal. Both are decent picks. We do have one more 6-drop than we do have a 4-drop. If we do get Void Callers at any point, which is possible, there's still 17 or 16 more picks left. We can get a Dread Infernal out on the field for free. Burly Rockjaw Trog does kind of prevent enemies from choosing to play removal spells unless they're going to remove the Trog, because they'll get punished with a 5/5 minion. That also applies to Flame Strike, by the way. I would personally put a slight preference on Dread Infernal. It's slightly better, and it combos with Void Caller. Not that we have one yet, but Burly Rockjaw Trog isn't bad either. Okay, Mortal Coil is okay. I mean, card draw, deal 1 damage. It's not bad. It's a card people play in Constructed. Though we are really lacking on the 4-drops. And this seems more like a deck which is going to burn out on cards a little bit faster and then need to life tap some more. So, well, that argument would say, well, then don't take the card draw for either. Well, we don't take Demon Fire. We wouldn't even want an 8/8 Dread Infernal. That's just asking for Big Game Hunter. Though, it's Dr. Boom who's going to be getting Big Game Hunter. They don't know we have it, though. I would say Gnomish Inventor here. Mortal Coil is alright, but... it's just kind of a weak card in general. And this does get you a card anyway, so we'll take the Gnomish Inventor, I think. Is that right, though? No, wait. But then you have to consider the mana cost. You could play this, and you can also play something else like Shattered Sun Cleric. And then stat for stat, then the Mortal Coil would be better. You know, on second thought, we'll actually take the Mortal Coil, especially considering we have Archmage. Not the most obvious choice, though. Okay, Dread Corsair, terrible. Micro Machine. Meh, it's not really an aggressive deck. It's probably just going to serve as like a standard 2-drop minion. Shadow Bolt, on the other hand, is actually pretty decent because 4 damage for a 3-drop spell that's targeted, not bad. We'll take the Shadow Bolt. Floating Watcher is actually a card I've kind of liked in Arena Mode. If your opponent can't deal with it, then they're kind of screwed. Oasis Snapjaw and Micro Machine aren't good anyway, so we will take a Floating Watcher. Do we take a second one, or do we take a Silverhand Knight, though? Or do we even take a Jungle Panther? I think relying on getting the Floating Watcher proc too much is kind of unrealistic. 9 out of 10 times, it's not going to get twice. And if you do get it once, then it's effectively the same as this, except you have to life tap for it, and this can get removed sooner. So I will take the Silverhand Knight over the Floating Watcher, because this is guaranteed to get you 2 minions. That is not guaranteed to get you 6. Or 6/6. Consistency is really important in Arena, if you haven't figured that out by now. Okay, so here we have some rubbish cards. Not enough attack. Wind Fury, eh. I mean, with Abusive Sergeant, but eh. Not worth it. Silver Moon Guardian, on the other hand, is a good trading minion because it has Divine Shield. Usually we'll take at least a couple spells to remove it, unless they want to spend a Siphon Soul, but then you win anyways, because that's a 6-mana spell for a 4-mana minion. It's sticky to the board, it's good at trading. I will take the Silver Moon Guardian. It's decent. Average at the minimum. Demon Heart. Now that's interesting. Big Game Hunter or Hobgoblin. Hobgoblin is a card I would really like to have in Constructed, because I'm sure there's lots of fun things you can do with it, but it's not an Arena card. I mean, look at the deck. You don't have any 1-mana cards. It's completely useless. You don't want a 2/3 for 3. So, sorry, Goblins and Gnomes. Goblins and Gnomes. We will not be taking you today. So, Demon Heart, deal 5 damage for 5 mana, rubbish. Give a friendly minion, friendly demon, +5/+5. Thing is, we only have 1 demon, and that's the Dread Infernal. We don't really want to buff that anyway. Big Game Hunter, on the other hand, can screw people over in Arena. If they're playing cards like Dr. Boom, anything big, if it goes late game, Big Game Hunter is a nice tempo card. You turn things around. Worst case scenario, it's a 4/2. A 4/2 for 3, I'd say, is about on par with dealing 5 damage with a 5-mana spell. So, I will take the Big Game Hunter because it has the potential to be really good. Okay, here we have some pretty good picks. Mortal Coil, I'm not going to pick that. We already have one, and we have plenty of one-cost spells and minions. On the other hand, Dark Iron Dwarf is great. Singeing Shieldmaster is great. Which one is better? That really depends on your circumstances and your deck. We have a couple of 2-drop minions. Not really enough, though. And that kind of makes me wonder how much value Dark Iron Dwarf can really get. Do we need to protect ourselves so we can get to the late game? I actually do think we do. The thing is, this deck is a little bit on the slow side so far, so if they get too aggro, too tempo-based, then we're going to be in trouble without a taunt. Singeing Shieldmaster is a good wall, so we will take Singeing Shieldmaster. Deck consistency, guaranteed to do something useful almost. These are pretty rubbish. Void Terror, not the worst thing in the world. You can Abusive Sergeant a minion, use that minion to attack, and then Void Terror the minion and eat that +2 buff from the Abusive Sergeant. I like to play Void Terror when I have things like Power Overwhelming or Nerubian Eggs. We have neither of those. So, in most cases, it's kind of like a 3/3 that you can choose to make bigger than that. And it also combos with Demon Fire, so 5 mana, make your own 5/5, not terrible. Murloc Tidecaller, on the other hand, is god-awful. We have one Murloc, actually. We have one Murloc. That does not justify it. I'm sorry. Mana Addict is better than that. Mana Addict. We have 3 spells. They're 1-drops, which is nice for that, plus a Demon Fire. So 4 spells you can realistically use with that. Arguably 5, because turn 2 Mana Addict, turn 5 Shadow Bolt. Mana Addict, not a terrible pick here. But, well, we do need more 2-drops. When you put it like that, Dark Skeleton, because we have 5 early game spells, I will actually take the Mana Addict. Usually you would take the Void Terror, but because we need the 2-drops, because it has 3 HP as well, and because Void Terror, nothing really to combo it with, we'll take a Mana Addict. Kind of painfully. Neither are great picks. But that might be able to become a 3/3 and make a trade into an enemy 2/2 minion, or a 2/3 minion, and that's something you'd like to see. That would actually make it pretty good. So here we have Blood Imp versus Dread Infernal versus Booty Bay Bodyguard. Booty Bay Bodyguard is trash. Blood Imp is not as bad as Booty Bay Bodyguard, and is actually decent if you get it out on turn 1. But what happens if you draw it on like turn 20, you're going up against a mage, and then it just gets fried, or the buffs that it gives don't really help in the first place that much. It can be okay. Blood Imp is not what it used to be when it used to actually have attack stats. So we will go with Dread Infernal, I believe. Yeah, Dread Infernal is a solid 6-drop. Okay, next up, 7 cards to go. Frost Elemental, Drain Life, Stone Tusk Board. Drain Life is too slow of a spell, even though we do have a Mana Addict. Drain Life is not worth it. Charge, 1/1 charge is rubbish, waste of a card. A 6/6 that freezes is good in Arena in some circumstances. I actually think Frost Elemental is above average. That freeze is very strong in Arena, not so strong in Constructed, but you can push for damage if you freeze their big guy with this, and then they can't respond because they have no AoEs. They just have their big guy frozen on the field, and you just push for 12 damage, and then the next turn, it won't really matter because they're going to die. So Frost Elemental, not bad. We do have a lot of late game, though, so we do need to keep that in mind. Between these, Wisp is not great. Bloodsail Raider is okay, but Flame Imp is going to really give us a strong start. I think Flame Imp, you would usually want to take this in Arena. The extra stats you get, well worth the cost. Okay, another Dread Infernal. That is interesting. We could also take Sense Demons, but I don't think Sense Demons is worth it just to get 2 Dread Infernals. Besides, we probably will already have one in the hand. But do we pick a 3rd Dread Infernal instead? Maybe we do actually go Sense Demons. We do have a Floating Watcher as well. That's something I forgot. 3 Dread Infernals seems to be too much. Sense Demons? Yeah, we'll take Sense Demons because it's targeted card draw, and getting those Floating Watchers or Dread Infernals when we need them could actually be pretty good. We want to get this stuff late game. We don't want to keep drawing into the early game stuff. We probably want Dread Infernal so we can AoE their board down. Sort of like a really, really ghetto Flame Strike, but not exactly. So Sense Demons. I really wouldn't recommend taking more than one Sense Demons if you take one at all. So here we have Fell Cannon, which is good in a mech deck, but the problem is it deals 2 damage to a non-mech minion. That includes your own minions. So not as good as you would think. We have no mechs. Do we even have a single one? I don't think we have a single one. So that... Oh, Dr. Boom, that's right. Not the card to take. Young Priestess arguably dies too easily. Shadow Flame, on the other hand, is a board clear. People don't really expect Warlocks to bring board clear to Arena. I would actually recommend, if you can, draft one Hellfire or one Shadow Flame, at least. That way, if your opponent overwhelms you, which they will try so desperately to do because they know about your life tap ability, you can Shadow Flame a Dread Infernal or something like that, fry their board, then they won't have too much to respond to that with. They'll have burned their hand, trying to kill you, you Shadow Flame them, they have nothing to follow up. You still have plenty of plays, though, so you end up winning in the long run. So, Shadow Flame, definitely the pick there. Stormwind Champion is a decent card. Summoning Portal is interesting because we do actually have a lot of 5 and 6 drops, so there is potential for Summoning Portal to get a lot of stuff out on the field. That said, you do have to put 4 mana up front to actually play those minions. If Summoning Portal was a 3 mana minion, it might be a little bit better. Do we take a Demon Fire? I do think we have a little bit too much late game. Stormwind Champion would usually be the pick here. The problem is, if we have too much late game, how do we get to the late game? You really can't that easily. So, remove a minion for 2 mana. Ooh, I hate giving up the Stormwind's Champion, but I do feel this is the right choice. It's so painful. Tempo is really important for a Warlock. Okay, with the Flame Imp, that gets a little bit better, because a 5/4 Flame Imp. Now, that's a big deal on turn 2. Definitely Flame Imp. Okay, Sludge Belcher. Over Ancient Mage and Blood Corsair? Hell yes! Sludge Belcher, top tier pick. If not great, top 5 arena picks generally, as far as blue rarists go, especially neutral minions. So, Sludge Belcher, we will take that. Now, this deck overall, actually the curve ended up being pretty decent. Towards the end, we got the Flame Imps and the what do you call it? The Demon Fires. Now, 2 Demon Fires and 2 Flame Imps, that's really good. There's really not much they can do about a Demon Fired Flame Imp. It's really tough to deal with. You can make trades, you can push for damage, though you'd usually make trades. And even in the worst circumstances, you'll get like a 2 for 2, because you'll kill a minion and then they'll frostbolt it or something. But aside from that, we have a Zombie Chow, great to pick up for board tempo. Mortal Coil and Soulfire, good removal. Abusive Sergeant will have a use at some point. You can also play it on turn 1 if you need to, just to have something on the board. Though sometimes you want to hold on to it, sometimes you don't. You really have to gauge things, and that's just a skill you have to pick up over time. Bluegill Warrior, rubbish. Mana Addict, better than Bluegill Warrior in this deck. Youthful Brewmaster, lots of potential for the late game. It's actually a really good 2-drop here. Sense Demons, also pretty good. Almost guaranteed to get a Floating Watcher or a Dread Infernal, which may be what you need. A Shadow Bolt is a good removal spell. Decent, actually. Not, I wouldn't say good, because it only targets minions. And, you know, Flame Cannon for a mage does 4 damage for 2 mana. It might be random, but I'd say Flame Cannon is better than Shadow Bolt. Big Game Hunter, it's a nice trump card. They might not see it coming. You might snipe something like a Fell Reaver, something huge, and that can easily turn a game around. Shattered Sun Cleric is solid for 3-drops. Shadow Flame is a good removal spell. They won't see it coming. You can burn their whole field. Chillwind Yeti, Sinjin Shieldmaster, very stable 4-drops, good pickups. Silvermoon Guardian, not nearly as stable, not as good, but it is a Divine Shield 3/3, which means it's a good trading minion. Floating Watcher, if you're able to hold board tempo and actually get this guy out, buff him up, it's basically they will remove this guy, silence him, or you will eventually win the game, unless they can rush you down. So it's almost like a win more creature. Silverhand Knight, very solid 5-drop, one of the best. 2 Sludge Belchers, one of the best 5-drops as well. Very defensive. Combined with this Engine Shield Master, it will be hard for them to rush you down. So it'll get into a much more controlling matchup. Archmage was initially going to be really terrible, but now that we have 2 Demon Fires, 2 Soul Fires, a Mortal Coil, and a Shadow Bolt, it's actually a decent pickup. If you combo that with any of those spells, you can get some really good value. 2 Dread Infernals are good demons. They have a lot of value. They also have the ability to AoE your opponent's board. Unfortunately, we didn't get any Void Callers for this. Void Caller, to touch on it briefly, one of those cards that I would actually almost always take as a Warlock in Arena, just because if you have any other demons in your hand, you play that Void Caller, it will die, you'll still get another minion on the board. Getting extra minions on the board for free is huge, especially in Arena, because it's almost all about tempo. Speaking of tempo, Frost Elemental, great at slowing your opponent down, slowing their ability to trade, or allows you to push for damage. Pretty good in Arena, actually. I would put it in the good category, not average. Lord of the Arena, on the other hand, very average card. At least it's a taunt. It'll kind of protect you a little bit. And if you do use it to hit your opponent's face, it can do a lot of damage, but strictly average at best. Dr. Boom, on the other hand, probably considered one of the top 3 legendaries in Constructed right now. And in Arena, it's also very good, because those little boom bots, as you probably already know, when they die, they will deal 1 to 4 damage to a random enemy character. That can include heroes, that can include minions. He gets 2 of those, he also gets 7/7 stats, ridiculous amount of stat value, ridiculous amount of damage value for 7 mana, hard to deal with. If they don't have BGH, and they're probably not going to have BGH, then they're just going to sit there and be like, oh god, and then they'll probably forfeit. So, Dr. Boom, Big Game Hunter, great trump cards. This is actually a pretty good Arena deck, I would say, and I think you would get... Ooh, 6 wins with it? Maybe more. Maybe more. 6 wins on the reasonable side of guessing. I would say 8 wins would be a high guess. 4 wins would be a low guess, but I do think it can really get 6 wins pretty consistently. It has a decent curve. A little too much late game, but pretty decent overall. So, there you go. I hope you enjoyed drafting Warlock with me. Too bad we couldn't take Mal'Ganis and a bunch of Void Callers. But I do still stand by Dr. Boom as being the right pick there. I've been Dog Skeleton. If you want to message me or let me know what you want to see next, you can catch me on Twitter at @SupDogSkeleton. Leave a comment down below. And if you want to see more content like this, go ahead and subscribe. Till next time, guys, I will see you later.